everybody, and welcome to the IIBA podcast series. Today's topic, Advancing Your Agile Career Path, and our guest today is Jazz Full. Jazz is a seasoned professional whose career has spanned over 25 years of helping project teams and organizations reach their potential. A certified business analyst professional, a project management professional, a certified Agile project manager, and a certified change management expert, Jazz leverages a unique combination of knowledge, skills, and experience for each challenge. During his career, Jazz has experienced a wide variety of industries as a business analyst, a project manager, technical specialist, IT software development manager, and senior management consultant. He provides deep expertise in helping organizations leverage and integrate best practices across multiple disciplines to dramatically improve organizational performance. In his role as director with the IIBA, Jazz oversees intellectual property and product development. He serves a global community of business analyst professionals, providing innovative products and services that can be leveraged at an organizational level to drive better business outcomes. Welcome, Jazz.
Thank you, Amy. It's this is a really important topic we're going to be talking about, and I thank you for allowing me to be a part of this important discussion.
Well, thank you for being with us here today. So let's get right to it. Back in 2013, the IIBA predicted that BAs will be seen as the keystone to adopting Agile. Today, Agile has truly become mainstream. Why is Agile being adopted to the extent that it has?
Well, that's a great question, Amy. And I think that Agile practices have been adopted to the extent that they have, primarily because the measurable benefits are so compelling. The thing that we constantly hear from organizational leaders is that they tell us that the benefits they get from these approaches are critical ingredients for today's successful organization. And in terms of benefits, there's really 5 things that come to mind. I'd say the primary benefit of adopting Agile practices is really the ability to manage changing priorities. And, as you well know, that's absolutely critical in today's fast-paced, constantly changing world. And you need to be able to react to what you're seeing in your marketplace. Another critical benefit is that Agile approaches give you increased project visibility. Organizations are really tired of not knowing what's going on with their initiatives, and projects that use traditional plan-driven methods often seem to fall into a black hole, and by the time you figure out that they're in trouble, it's often too late to do anything about it. I'd say a third important benefit is that Agile approaches have proven to accelerate product delivery. And that's so important because with market cycles shrinking, it's really important to get products out to market as quickly as possible. Agile practices do that for you by helping accelerate both the product build as well as the delivery. So I think those are 3 key benefits, but let me give you 2 more that I think are also very important. My entire career, which now is going on 30-plus years, I always heard, do more with less. And when you think about it, most of the work done in an organization is done by teams. The fact that Agile methods result in increased team productivity, that is a significant benefit that we see. So increased team productivity is the 4th one. And then finally, let's face it, competitive pressures are greater than ever before, and customer expectations are higher than ever before. In many cases, organizationally, any slip-up can be pretty catastrophic. So that can be a pretty stressful environment for most people. So anything that helps increase team morale is very important to organizational leaders. And studies have proven again and again that it's very motivating to be working in an Agile context, and organizational leaders see that. So that's the 5th significant benefit, the increased team morale and motivation that you get. So when you think about those 5 big benefits for organizations, Is it any wonder that agile practices and approaches are being adopted to the extent that they have been? And in fact, most organizations should be asking, why haven't we adopted agile? So I believe those are the kind of the main reasons why you see the adoption rates that you do see.
Yeah, thank you. So can you tell me how the business analysis professionals adapted and evolved to be part of the Agile movement, or how have they?
Well, that's a great question. As BA professionals, we sometimes worry about, will I even have a job if my organization decides to adopt Agile? Well, the clear evidence is that not only will you have a job, but most BA professionals can thrive in an Agile environment. In fact, IIBA's most recent salary survey, which is our 2018 Global Business Analysis Salary Survey, it indicated that 69% of respondents have worked in an Agile context. So the key there is leverage what you already do well and build on it with the specific skills that allow you to be, one of those highly productive members of an Agile team. So how have they adapted and evolved? Well, let's start with what you have going for you. As BA professionals, we kind of have a history of delivering value. We've always been about collaboration. We've always been about sourcing out people who have the information and connecting them with people who need that information. We've always been about eliciting good information to support value delivery. And we've always been about sharing that information to ensure that the product or the solution being built meets customer needs. So those foundational things that we're already really good at, they don't change. So what you do to adapt now is you build on that foundation. And what changes is how much of this you do, how you do it, and when you do it. So, for example, instead of eliciting business information such as goals, objectives, needs, and requirements up front, you elicit just enough information to support near-term delivery of value. Instead of assembling all the business information up front, you assemble just what's needed, again, to support near-term delivery. Instead of capturing all the business information and sharing it, in one standard format like a requirement spec, you're flexible in how you capture that information and who you share it with. So those are the ways in which we've adapted and evolved, and that's really about developing your Agile mindset. And so as a final note, the Agile Extension version 2, published by IIBA, goes into detail describing that Agile mindset, and developing that Agile mindset really is the most important way in which you adapt to the Agile world.
Okay, thank you. That actually brings me into our next question, which is, as the awareness and adaptation of Agile continues to grow, what are organizations' expectations of how Agile can drive business solutions?
That's an interesting question. Well, I'd say, first of all, Agile approaches have been with us for a long time, and consequently, there's lots and lots of success stories. There's also lots of examples where traditionally managed multi-million-dollar projects run into trouble only to be saved with a team using Agile approaches. There's actually so many of these success stories that Agile approaches have gone mainstream. In fact, for many, and I kind of said this earlier, for many organizations, using Agile methods has become the go-to strategy, and now they need a pretty compelling reason not to use Agile. In fact, study after study have proven that Agile approaches deliver measurable bottom-line results. So let's think about some of the common aspects regardless of the Agile approach that you're using, right? So, Agile implies iterative and incremental. So teams build a solution or a product in increments, with each increment consisting of a complete delivery of value. And the product increments are built one iteration at a time. And the significance of that is that each iteration provides an opportunity for the team to learn. And how do teams learn? Well, they do that through customer feedback. And that's incredibly important. You might think you're building a great product that everyone's going to love, but it's your customers that ultimately decide if that's a great product or not. So Agile approaches focus teams on rapid delivery of business value that's driven by what you learn from real customers. So when I put those concepts together, I think there's really 5 business outcomes that come immediately to mind when you think about deploying these strategies. And those 5 really very neatly describe what organizations expect from Agile methods. Number 1, I'd say they expect to create products that are better aligned with customer needs just because of the processes that they use. Number 2, they expect to reduce the risk associated with product development. Number 3, they look forward to actually seeing higher quality products being produced. Number 4, they probably expect increased customer satisfaction because of the involvement of real-world customers throughout the process. And then finally, I think they expect to see much fewer project failures. In the Agile world, you never ever see an absolute project failure. There is always something valuable that's being created.
How are the skills needed to be a strong Agile business analyst different than traditional business analyst?
Oh, I like that question because it actually allows me to elaborate a little bit more on my response to one of your earlier questions, where I mentioned that developing that Agile mindset is, it's one of the most important ways in which a BA professional adapts to be part of the Agile movement. So there's actually a lot we can do to become better equipped for Agile initiatives. So let me kind of run through a couple of the high points. First and foremost, recognize that you already have strongly developed underlying competencies that really position you for success, right? So think about the competencies that make you a really good BA today. Competencies such as, system thinking, conceptual thinking, visual thinking, adaptability, business acumen, industry knowledge, communication skills, influencing, teamwork, teaching, and so on. These are all needed for a high-performing team member working on an Agile team. And these, by the way, are described in Chapter 9 of IIBA's Guide to the Business Analysis Body of Knowledge, Version 3. And the good news is that you've already developed those. So recognize you already have a lot going for you. What you need to add to this is developing your Agile mindset. And that Agile mindset is described in a companion publication from IIBA that's titled The Agile Extension to the BABAC Guide. And there we're at version 2 on that one. So, as an aside, this isn't about advertising our products or our IP, but they truly are your best sources of information for understanding what is required for effective Agile business analysis. So, getting back to your question, Amy, the main components of developing that Agile mindset include delivering value rapidly and consistently, collaborating courageously, iterating to learn, simplify to avoid waste, always consider context and adapt to your realities, reflect on feedback, strive for both product and process improvements through adaptation, and finally producing the highest quality products. So those are the behaviors you need to exhibit, but how do you get there? Well, it's all about developing that Agile mindset, and it begins by understanding the Agile manifesto. And I think today most people are kind of familiar with those 4 value statements. The individuals and interactions over processes and tools, and then there's 3 others. So I won't get into those. But what we now need to do is we need to kind of contextualize those value statements and make them really come alive for the business analysis work that you do to drive value delivery in short iterations. And the real key to developing your Agile mindset is to fully embrace the principles of Agile business analysis. By the way, those are described in Chapter 2 of the Agile extension. So let me see if I can remember those 7 principles, because they are very important. 1, see the whole. 2, think as a customer. Number 3, analyze to determine what is valuable. Number 4, get real using examples. Number 5, understand what is doable. Number 6, stimulate collaboration and continuous improvement. And finally, number 7, avoid waste. Now, as you know, good analysis practices are critical at every level in an organization. So they're not just important for project teams, but they're just as critical at the strategic level, the tactical level, and the operational level. So what these 7 principles of Agile business analysis do for you is that if you take the time to read about them, learn them, internalize them, and practice applying these 7 principles, you will be incredibly well equipped to add value in any work at any level in your organization.
Okay. Some very exciting news actually related to that is that the IIBA has recently launched a new Agile Certification. So can you tell our listeners a little bit more about the certification, what is in the new certification, and who is it really for?
Yes, of course. Okay, so it's really for anyone that wants to set themselves up for success when working in an Agile context. I think if you recognize the importance of good analysis for delivering good quality outcomes, then this certification is for you. We wanted to make sure that the Agile certification was a unique offering and that it really helped position those that earn it for success. So we challenged ourselves to really answer 3 questions, right? So first of all, what is the real need? And there we found that there is a gap in understanding what effective Agile analysis looks like. Secondly, we had to ask ourselves, is that need being met today? And the answer to that is no, it's not. And incidentally, there's agreement with our friends in the Agile community that this truly is a recognized gap. And then thirdly, we had to say, well, okay, if it's not being met, what could we do to truly meet that need? So it was through exploring those 3 kind of high-level questions that we created a certification that is very much focused on what effective analysis looks like when it's practiced in an Agile context. Our starting point was really, we conducted kind of a mini practice analysis study, or what some people call a role delineation study. And it really involved identifying, what types of analysis work is done when working in an Agile context, what techniques are used, what outcomes are created, what skills, what techniques, what knowledge, and what practices are needed to be successful. We also talked to Agile practitioners, Agile team leads, and hiring managers in order to not only elicit that type of information, but also to validate it. And as a result, this exam is very much focused on those aspects of effective analysis that are most likely to be practiced in an Agile context. And in fact, you'll find that 35% of each exam has questions based on techniques and how those techniques are deployed in real-world scenarios. I think also noteworthy is that this is a competency-based exam. And the research on this is pretty compelling, and the advantages of competency-based exams are well known. Specifically, this exam is written for Level 2 competencies, as described by IIBA's competency model. And you might well ask, well, why that particular level? Why Level 2? And that's because through this work, we discovered that Level 2 resonated the most with hiring managers in the Agile world. It was also important to us to know that the Agile Analysis Certification exam was really developed in collaboration and working with expert SMEs, so subject matter experts, that represented both Agile practitioners and Agile leaders. And you know, the reason that was so important is that it gives us greater confidence in speaking about this very close connection now between this exam and what a hiring manager would be looking for. And it also creates a closer connection between the competency development that's recognized at this Level 2 certification and the actual competencies that a practitioner would rely upon when completing this type of work. So, summing this up, if you're familiar with IIBA's competency model, you'll know that the proficiency levels that are kind of described at that Level 2 that I'd mentioned earlier, they're typically developed over 2 to 3 years of work experience. Now, of course, depending on how heavily you're immersed in the Agile world, you may have developed those competencies much quicker. So just kind of consider that a rough measure or guideline. And finally, I'd say take a look at the handbook for the Agile Analysis Certification that's available on our website, because it very neatly summarizes this type of information.
Okay, thank you very much. We have one last question. What value does certification provide to a BA professional, and how does that value translate to business success?
Okay, that's a really interesting question, and I think, you know, I could probably answer that in many ways, so let me kind of take the following path. This certification, it really is not a certification just for the sake of getting another certification. If you do a deep dive into the information describing the Agile Analysis Certification, you'll find that it's very much focused on helping practitioners develop the required competencies that will help them perform the work that's actually needed in order to produce those high-quality outcomes. So, as far as I'm concerned, your reason for getting this certification is to be recognized for the competencies that you have already developed. You know, so we did a lot of work around what level of competency should be recognized here. We worked with hiring managers to understand that. We developed this concept of, you know, a minimally qualified candidate and what that individual would look like. The end result is that we believe the Agile Analysis Certification is a very important step forward for our community, and we also think it's an important step forward for the Agile community. So, given the way we built this exam, given who we've targeted, and that's both, you know, BA professionals and Agile practitioners, given the experts that we engaged to help us build the exam, and given the focus of this certification exam itself, which is very much hands-on analysis, very much around competencies, given all of that, we believe that this new certification exam is a unique offering and one that provides considerable value in today's world. You know, and so when I think about all of that, I would say that we've created a certification that will do 4 key things for you. 1, it identifies key competencies that should be developed at Level 2 of our competency model. So now you can use this information kind of as a guide to help you develop the necessary competencies. Secondly, I think the exam itself really assesses if you've actually delivered outcomes that very clearly demonstrate that you've developed those required competencies. So it's a nice alignment there. Number 3, I think you will have earned a certification that will provide you with the confidence to execute the work that you need to do and really add value to your Agile team. And then finally, I think, you know, the 4th thing that this certification does for you is that by earning it, that will strongly resonate with hiring managers as clear indication of what you're capable of doing.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And for people who are listening, where can they go to find out more information about the certification?
Well, I would start that journey on our website at iiba.org.
Okay. Well, Des, thank you so much for your time today. That was fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Amy. It was a pleasure chatting with you today.
And an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Thank you. Thank you, Des, and thank you to everybody out there.